Hello and welcome. My name is Tim Shaw, the Government Affairs Director here at the Pacific West Association of Realtors. In our effort to bring government to life for our members, I'm pleased to be joined today by Orange County Auditor-Controller Andrew Hamilton. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So why don't you tell everybody, what did you do before being elected our Auditor-Controller?
So I've had a career, probably half in the private sector or publicly traded companies, right? And then the other half in government. So I have worked for a few cities and water districts, so got my feet wet in government at a water district and said, hey, there's a county here, right? There's an open position, and I went for it and I won, so.
Well, wonderful. Now, Auditor-Controller is one of those offices you have to meet minimum qualifications, or
Yes.
they won't even let you be a candidate. So what are the
Correct.
qualifications that you have to have?
So you can be a CPA, you can be someone internal to the auditor controller, like a chief deputy or the number two in the office. You can work for like any government or local governments for at least 5 years in like their CFO like position. So those are the three ways that you can get into office. So
Wonderful.
qualify.
How long have you been our Auditor-Controller?
It's been about 3.5 years.
Okay, and I think you just got yourself officially another term, correct?
Yes. So I guess I have 4.5 years, 3.5 down, 4.5 at least. So yeah.
Wonderful. So, Andrew, people might not know exactly, they might think they know what the Auditor-Controller does, but it's one of those offices where maybe people aren't exactly sure. So what exactly does the Auditor-Controller do?
You know, and I get that a lot, right? Like, what exactly do you do? So we cut all the payroll checks. You know, we pay all the vendors. We do the annual financial report, which gets audited. So we deal with the auditors too. We also, big thing is process the tax rates, right, for property taxes, and then send that money once it's collected by the treasurer tax collector off to all the government entities like cities and school districts, water districts, the county itself, right? So we're very heavily involved in the property tax process. So that's kind of, and we have an IT function, and there's other things, but those are kind of like the core responsibilities.
But because your name is on the paycheck, you're obviously the most popular person out there for county employees. They get their paycheck and your name's on the check, right?
You know, I'll take it, right? We have to make sure those calculations are correct too, right? Like all the vendor payments, we got to make sure that they're on time and correct. So absolutely.
So with your title being the Auditor-Controller, people might have the idea that you are sitting around here doing audit after audit after audit, but maybe you could explain what does that function look like in reality with your office?
So we have two people in office, right, in my department that do the statutory audits of the treasurer, tax collector that are required. There's another department, internal audit, and they have 15 to 20 people, and they do all the other internal audits for the county. That person reports directly to the Board of Supervisors.
You know, I wanted to ask you also how, in your role, how the counties of Orange is looking as far as the budget goes. I know we had the well-publicized airport fire. Unfortunately, county workers had inadvertently set a fire that caused a lot of damage, so that's causing a financial strain. So how would you say, how is the county doing just as far as the budget and how we're looking right now?
Well, definitely comparative to other counties, we're doing great. We still have a AAA rating, so that's very important. And we have had to tighten our belt this year. So pretty much each department had like a 5% reduction to their departmental budget. So we still have strong reserves. You know, you kind of have reserves for a rainy day or a day where things catch on fire. So kind of the opposite of a rainy day, but in any case, right, like we still have strong finances at the county. It's just, you know, we've had to dip into those reserves a bit and now tighten our belt, so.
Well, Orange County, of course, famously had the bankruptcy back in the 90s, so it's great to see we've come, I think, a long way in making sure we're financially sound and have good controls in place to make sure we don't end up in hot water like that again. So that's great. And of course, the county government and local government generally really lives off of the property tax revenue. So what can you tell us about that specifically?
So property tax, it's such an important revenue generator for both the county and other local governments in Orange County. So the assessor does an assessment, right, of the parcel, the properties. So we get that, and then once that's there, there's this great law, constitutional amendment, Prop 13. It keeps that tax rate at 1%, which is so critical, right, to people on fixed income and just regular people. So we ensure that 1% is right there. That tax is calculated, it goes to the property to the tax collector, and then once it gets collected, we send that off to all the cities, to the county itself, and special districts and school districts. So we're kind of right in the middle of everything. And we manage the property tax system, we call it the PTS. And so that system is so critical to, it just went through an upgrade probably 3-4 years ago. So it was still on a mainframe 4 years ago. So now it's on a modern server-based system, and eventually want to get it to like a cloud infrastructure to allow more potential remote working, know when, right? And that stability with remote and data backup. So it's really important to continue to enhance that property tax system. But we manage it, and it's critical to the county's general fund. It's the largest funding source.
So yeah, I think for the homeowner out there, they pay their property tax, but as you're explaining, that property tax pot of money gets divided out all kinds of different ways,
right.
And we need to be careful. Every agency of government's getting the appropriate allotment of that property tax, so that everyone's every program's treated fairly and how it's supposed to run. So. And the schools getting quite a bit of the property tax revenue, of course. So we spend a lot on education in our country, and so
we have to.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the next generation.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
That's a good thing. Now, I know before we started, you started telling me about the upgrade that's going to come, and I'm going to completely mess it up. So if I try to explain it, so what was it we were talking about that you're looking forward to implementing?
So we have a old accounting system. Right, it's the acronym is ERP, an Enterprise Resource Planning Software. So you've probably heard of some of the SAPs and Oracle, Workday. Those are kind of like the big three software platforms that can handle like journal entries, day-to-day accounting, or making payroll. Cutting payroll and entering, doing a recruitment and entering new employees into the system. Paying vendors, and even doing a procurement, right? Trying to find vendors. So this software is kind of all-encompassing. Anything to do with like finances, it does billing, right, for accounts receivable. So if you have a dog license, right, like that's one thing that we're trying to consolidate. So there were 22 different systems, right, that had separate, like we had a separate timesheet piece of software. We had separate requisition or procurement type of software. So all these things are getting combined into one software with Oracle. So that cuts down on all the maintenance and all the tech support and all the, reliance on your accounting system chain, right? Is if you have to have a reliance on all 21 of these links or 22 of these links, in different computer systems. Now you just have one. We're going to have one in about a year. We go live on the first portion in about a year, and then a year and a half for the payroll portion. So it's really important, and it saves us It saves us over that 10 years, $50 million. So,
wow!
I'll say it again. It saves us $50 million over 10 years. So I can't tell you how excited I am going It was on a mainframe about 15 years ago and got upgraded, so it's still like a legacy product. And now we're going to the cloud with. There's going to be all sorts of new data analytics. You know, we're great at the county at producing data, but we need to do better at analyzing it. So it's going to have data analytics. It's going to revolutionize some of the internal controls and allowing them to be in a one-stop kind of shop, a module that identifies risks, has continuous monitoring so that someone can't like do something probably just not appropriate within the system, like maybe approving something and then paying it, and then also recording. Those are some of these. It's a technical term called segregation of duties, but you don't want to have someone over reliant on too many steps along the process. You want to spread out that risk amongst many people, so that there's no bad transactions going through the system. So.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
We don't want it. We hear too much about fraud and inappropriate uses of money. So we want to make sure we're on top of that. That's great. So.
Absolutely.
You were kind of reminding me just yesterday. Our kitchen sink, the water pressure was super low, and you've realized we've been living with this for years. And so my wife finally just says, "Go get a new sink." So it was just internal to the sink. So we put on that new sink, and voila, all this. It's like, why did we do this years ago?
Exactly.
When you finally make that upgrade and you realize, oh, why did we have this real clunky system before? And now it's like, once you do it, you're like, wow, this is should have been done a long time ago. I'm so glad we got it done. And I think home improvements around the house are kind of often in that category.
No, you're exactly right. Like what we need to do is we need to modernize, right? And there's these new systems, they aren't like a lot of manual processes, right? So you have to rethink, right? Maybe there's some area where we can improve. So we're changing the business processes, right, within the county to be more efficient and rely on technology instead of everything being manual. For example, in the future, right, instead of us receiving an invoice in the mail, right, we're going to ask our vendors to enter it into like this special portal just for them, right? And then it gets electronically routed instead of physically routed today along various desks, and it might get stuck under somebody's, stack of invoices, right? Like the old one is like just at the bottom. So just a lot of more electronic and a lot more efficiency. And I'm just really excited because this is where tax dollars, are busy being spent on maybe these manual processes today, and we can make them more efficient in the future. That's less of a tax burden, future tax burden on taxpayers. So, and it's being a good steward of those tax dollars. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, congratulations on that forward-thinking innovation. That's great. So most people who'll be watching this will be real estate professionals. So I wonder if you had a message you would like to share with those here in Orange County who might be, working in the real estate industry and business. What would you have to say to them?
I think that my biggest comment is you're needed, right? You are needed in this industry. Like everyone needs a place to live, right? And so whether it's building new homes, whether it's the existing homes and trying to find, the right product for somebody who's either moving into the area or is leaving for another job out of state, right? Like, that's life, right? That's so important to have, like, and to live in a good neighborhood, right? So, all the help that you provide your industry in helping people find the right home, right? So, and I support that with just keeping the taxes just exactly the way that, we have voted for that in Prop 13, and love Prop 13. I think affordability is a huge concern for Californians, right? And so just keeping the taxes as low as we can, right, supports your industry, and it seems like there's definitely a synergy there, right? Like I feel like I'm a huge supporter of realtors, right? Because I have these responsibilities in the property tax realm. So we're kind of like joined at the hip, if you will. So.
Well, I certainly appreciate your comments about Prop 13. You know, the Realtor Association prides itself in being, you know, big champions and supporters of Prop 13. So it's great to have elected officials like yourself who are helping us and always defending Prop 13 that seems to regularly be under attack in some different form or another. They want to raise property taxes and stuff, but we've been able to hold strong all these years. So we appreciate your help and support in that.
Absolutely. You know, Prop 13 doesn't need changes. It doesn't. It doesn't need to be split. You know, a split roll. We don't need that, right? And it can be a little more complicated on the side when we have to cut checks to the cities, right? There's these formulas in the past. Before Prop 13, it was kind of an easy spreadsheet, but I don't mind any complexity, this like incremental complexity. Prop 13, I can't speak more highly of it. It doesn't need changed. If anything, it needs strengthened, and just love Prop 13. So you could get me talking about that forever. I could talk do we have another 20 minutes to talk about Prop 13?
Well, thank you, Andrew. It's been very informative, and we want to always be a resource to your office if we can ever help. And coming up with data on the real estate market or anything from our system, we're happy to do that. But appreciate the good work you're doing, and want to always support your efforts. So once again, Tim Shaw with the Government Affairs Department here at the Pacific West Association, and we've been pleased to talk and learn from Orange County Auditor-Controller Andrew Hamilton. We'll see you guys next time.